Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life is for Living. I'm your host, Kylee Buckley, and I'm here with David J. Riddell from the School of Living Wisdom. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
David, we had a question on one of our recordings a couple of weeks ago about post abortion. Women that go through this process. Are you able to talk into that and how we can help people cope with the aftermath of going through such a procedure?
Yes, I don't want to row out to sea because it's deep water, though. So we might need to make that question more specific from a counsellor's perspective. Abortion and post abortion involves a wide range of issues and psychological and emotional challenges. We're talking about grief in post abortion. We're talking about, oh my God, what have I done? We're talking about panic at the time you discover that you're pregnant and you didn't actually intend to make a baby, or that you're going to be a dad and that was the last thing on your mind at the time. So we're talking about the loss of peace, because peace is the reassurance of adequate resources, and at that moment, she doesn't believe she has the resources she needs to be a mother, either financially, either emotionally support, either a man who wants to be a father or does not want to be a father, in terms of money, in terms of career. You could say the brown stuff hits the whirly thing when a woman discovers an unwanted pregnancy. And my role depends on when I'm brought on board. If it's post abortion, it may be gently helping them to accept the enormity of what they've done, that they have taken a life, not just a clump of cells, for their own progress or convenience sake. They may need to be reassured that it wasn't a life, that it was just a clump of cells, and I can't give them that for obvious reasons. The obvious reason that people don't want to front up to, that there was no particular moment during pregnancy when that human life was formed or when it was given human life status. The argument that it's just a clump of cells, well, can you tell me when it stopped being a clump of cells and became a baby? Was it at the quickening? Was it after 6 months? Was it the law of viability? Was it at birth? There is no right answer to that question because it's a nonsense question. Life begins at conception. And sometimes mothers realize that, and grandmothers realize that through the progress of their life and their awakenings. And sometimes they stay in denial. And in denial, they advise their own daughters to have an abortion, or in denial, they continue to think that actually what they did was simply an act of convenience. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff going down here. The priority is compassion, not soft love. And I like to make a clear distinction. Many a well meaning mother has exercised soft love towards her daughter and then wondered why the daughter's emotional life and psychological health turned to custard after the abortion. After the abortion came drugs, escapism, self hatred, guilt, suppressed guilt, a sense of disaster, and I've screwed up my life. So things can go downhill badly after an abortion, and often I've been the person called in to help. Now, one of the helps that I give is to begin by drawing this woman out of denial and helping her to recognize that there really was a baby, and that now the only thing that she can do is to restore to herself the self-respect that a mother needs to be a mother with ownership. One baby doesn't substitute for another. One child does not fill the gap of the lost first one. And so we need to work this through carefully, lovingly, compassionately, and perhaps even dedicate the lost baby back to God who gave it, and name it and dedicate it, and then look forward to the hope of being reconciled and restored so that the mothering can finish off in heaven, because that's where that baby now is.
Mm.
So, you've touched on a massive issue there, and I just want to approach that with a respect for Christ's definition of the baby. We know, for example, that when Mary greeted her sister Elizabeth, her baby leapt in the womb for the sound of the greeting of its auntie. There was already sentience and human status there, and mothers will tell you that have bonded to their baby that although that baby hasn't yet appeared, there is another life in her life that she takes completely seriously. And
Mm.
interestingly, people try and hide from this by using weasel words or using words like embryo or fetus. But we must remember that a fetus is offspring, just as child is offspring, and that doesn't fix it. And I do want to add this, that when people say, no, it's just a clump of cells, it's not human life, I say, hang on a minute, you can be defined as just a clump of cells. And if you give this baby human status on the basis that it's useful or that it has conscious awareness or sentience, you better be careful, because you just took human status of a huge percentage of the elderly, and a huge percentage of those who are suffering Alzheimer's or don't have conscious awareness. You just took human life off them as well. So be careful how you define human life.
Mhm.
I don't know if this is the answer you were looking for, but well, it was a big question. I think you'll agree.
It was a big question and very loaded. Thank you for your reply and all its variances that you've spoken to. So, for a woman that's had an abortion and is regretting it and realised that it was their child and maybe their only chance to have a family, um, what are some ways that can help her? I think you said naming the child, actually acknowledging that that was their baby, their son or
Well,
their
you see,
daughter.
that's the responsible thing for a mother to do. The denial is that there was no life, there was no person or human being or sentience, but in reality there was,
Mm.
and that child needs to be dedicated and needs to be named. They need to have a name, and only the parents can bestow that name.
Mm.
And with a name is bestowed identity. And even the angels will refer to that baby now with the name that mother gave it.
Wow.
And when we're going to talk about that reunion, we
Mm-hmm.
need a name. So yeah, that's pretty important, really.
Mm-hmm. But it's similar to, although it's different because you didn't choose it, but to those women that have had miscarriages and lost their child. I had one many years ago at
Yeah,
15 weeks,
yeah,
and I named it.
yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
I did it a bit later on. And yeah, it sort of gave me a sense of peace that, yeah, one day we will unite. Um, and I suppose it validates their existence, even though I never got to really hold it and meet the child.
Exactly. And when you try and take that off a mother, her spirit knows that this isn't right, that wasn't right, there is. But to live with that, they have to go into denial. And I want to remind mothers in denial that the body keeps score.
Mm, yes. And all you're doing is burying your pain by denying it.
Exactly. And it shows up in the strangest of places. I know women who can't bear the sound of the vacuum cleaner and the sound of suction. They are unable to pick up a vacuum cleaner and keep house. And I think you can make the connection.
Mhm.
I know women who will never talk about abortion. They don't want to discuss it. They won't even go near it. And there's a reason for that.
Mm.
So it shows up somewhere. And I think it comes back to the fact that Christ is the only solution to forgiveness, and that He is ready to forgive, but we have to be ready to acknowledge and come into the light and have our actions and choices exposed. You can't forgive what you won't acknowledge.
Mhm. Oh, that's true. And then the healing can come.
And you know, this is not just a female issue. There's a father who's going to wonder for the rest of his life, what did he do to his potential best mate, his best friend? What did he allow to happen to his child? Sometimes his only son, for example. And why was he so frightened that he didn't take ownership? Because you will know that what a woman thinks about her fetus depends largely on the father's reaction when he's told. If he's delighted, if he congratulates her, if he's over the moon, if he's proud of what they've created together, it chucks a whole new light on her understanding of the status of that baby.
Mm.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, definitely. Could even change her mind.
Yeah. And if mother is delighted and she welcomes this young man into her family as an unexpected son-in-law, for example, that can change everything too. So our mother, grandmother, has a vital role to play in this scenario. So we've got three players now: the father, the mother, and the grandmother. And of course, my role as a counselor in helping them not to lose their courage.
Hmm. And I suppose this speaks a lot into the youth of today. You know,
Absolutely.
I know from young 14-year-olds they can go and have an abortion and not tell their mums or dad and go through all of that on their own. And this is what schools support. Um,
Well, schools, in their misguided compassion for the person they consider to be a victim, are quick to drive and help drive a wedge between mother and daughter, daughter and father, uh, daughter and grandfather. And this is evil. It is a terrible thing to do. And it's part of the way that schools can interfere and overfunction and basically step over their own authority lines.
mhm. So if I was 15 years of age and I was pregnant, what sort of resources are out there apart from your family? You should always speak to your family, I think,
Well,
because
that's the biggest question, and that's the first thing that I bring to a new mother's awareness that she has underestimated the huge resources in society that are there to back her up if she wants them. There's this Society for the Protection of the Unborn Child, there's Pregnancy Help, there's Pregnancy Helpline. There are GPs in every city who are pro-life and will help with free care, natal care, and there is well, there's just an abundance of resources that we can help and call into involvement when we know what's going on,
mhm,
most of which the new mother has no concept or idea of. And as a result, she doesn't have peace she doesn't know the resources that are available.
Would you say for a young woman to go to her doctor first?
Oh, yes, absolutely, and find out what resources are available to her there. But to tell her mother and father and reassure them that abortion is not an option. So, what can they bring to the party? What can the father bring to the party? And what can others bring? And she will be amazed at it, because what other people want to know is, well, is the baby wanted? If the baby is wanted, they'll spring into action.
Mm-hmm.
If the baby is not wanted, they're deeply ambivalent, deeply doubtful, and often just don't know what to do. And sadly, they take their agenda from the father. If he's not interested, not ready to be a dad, not ready to support, then sometimes they say, oh, well, then we have no choice because we don't want to be supporting a fatherless child. And so the easiest thing is the abortion. And practically speaking, that may be true. Uh, doctors, gynecologists, they're often falling over themselves to help, but they do not take into account the detriment and the destruction that occurs in a young woman's self-worth, self-respect,
Mm.
and of self-valuation once she has an abortion in her history. Hey, that was never what she was intending for her life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that can just be a spiral. I can
Oh, I've seen
imagine.
it. I've seen it many times in my lifelong career as a counsellor.
Mm. Well, we still do have adoption services here in our land. There's so many people that cannot have children.
Oh, well, it's true, but when I attempted an adoption in New Zealand, there were none available because they were being kept for the DPB, or else they were being aborted. That situation may have changed now. This was some time ago, but I could not find in New Zealand a suitable baby for us to adopt.
Yes, well, I know abortion is rampant. It's rampant. It has been for years, and it's very sad. All these little lives.
Well, if you think, 30 years ago it was 10,000 a year, I shudder to think what it is now. Sorry, 7,000 a year back in the 80s. I shudder to think what it is now. But, without morals, a young woman can start practicing abortion as their form of contraception. It's just horrible.
It is, isn't it? I do agree with you on that one. Well, thank you, David, for your wealth of knowledge. So, women, if there's anybody out there contemplating this, really seriously consider the life of your child. I mean, I've heard of women that, you know, were not really wanted, and but the mothers had them anyway. They could have been a rape victim, and that baby ended up being the healing of their family. It ended up being the most beautifulest um, thing that healed many wounds and brought the family together. So,
I
it can
think
be a
there's two
blessing.
things that pro abortion women forget completely or they're in denial about, Kylie. Do you want to hear what they are? Number one, your body, your rights.
Uh,
But if it's really your body, why do you need to kill it? That's a fair question. If it's really your body, why do you need to kill it? I
mhm,
think that's a fair question. And I think the other belief is that it's not human until it's born or until it's at a certain age, but there is no certain age when it becomes
mhm,
human. And a third thing, and I'll finish with this, every mother, I think, who is pro abortion or expectant mothers, they forget that they were once a fetus.
mhm,
They forget that they were there once, and not one of them wishes that their mother had had an abortion.
mhm.
So it's a crime of irrationality, it's a crime of logic to want to destroy your own baby
Mm.
if you wouldn't have also welcomed yourself being destroyed when you, I mean, aren't you glad your mother didn't have an abortion? Because it probably occurred to her that she could.
I know, that's
So
true. Yeah.
let's just bring it home, shall we? And
Hmm.
see if you're still persuaded.
Yeah, well, and you know what? Sometimes it's never at the right time. I mean, I came along when my parents were divorcing. I was right at the crucial breakup. So,
Well,
hi
I
guys.
would suspect that it occurred to your mother that an abortion could let her off the hook.
It would have been easier for her, but I'm very grateful, and I'm sure she is too.
You need to say that again.
I'm very grateful, and I'm sure she is too. Yeah, but yeah, no, life is precious, and when you look at the amazing thing in a sperm, the egg, and all the cells, and it's a miracle. It's a miracle to have a child.
There's more
Yeah.
than one baby boy out there called David. They're not my sons, but they exist and thrive and are the joy to their mother because I intervened.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means that I elucidated some insights and some truth at a critical time.
Yes. All right, thank you, David, and thank you for your question to the woman that put that up. And we say, if you have any questions, if you're going through anything at the moment and you need advice, please put it in the comments field, and David and I will get back to you, and we'll do a show on it for you. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, David.
I hope you don't regret that invitation. This could trigger a firestorm. We are going against one of the greatest social norms in our society, or not norms. This is the forbidden zone that we're in now.
Oh, bring it on, I say.
Good on you.
And you know what? Your body is your body, and your child's body is their body too.
Can't disagree with that.
See everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
David.